Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I am your host, JP, John Poz, and with me today is a very, very special guest. He is a spiritual healer, a psychic, a medium, a TV and radio personality, an author. He is the modern-day Nostradamus, the psychic, Gary Spivey. Gary, welcome to the
Hey,
two-man
how
power
are you? Hey, John, thank you so much. I mean, if you had another title, we'd have to start another show. I mean, that's a lot of incarnations, a lot of incarnations, because I'm always running around and having fun and doing stuff with people. I've always been a people psychic, a show psychic, always on morning drive time radio shows, and that's how I ended up bumping into the wonderful world of wrestling, and uh, and
Yeah.
so. So I just, as a kid, I was just so enthralled by everything. And one time there was a wrestling event in my little country hometown in North Carolina, and Andre the Giant was there, and he was like my hero. And so it was just the greatest. It was the greatest. I was a little kid. I got to see him, and so I was always just so into it. And then later, of course, I become buddies with everybody because I'd done so much radio that all the guys would come in. We were in Tampa Bay. It was a show 100 years ago called the Ron and Ron Show. It was a very famous show. I think we had like 3 million listeners in Florida, and so all the wrestlers would come in and we become buddies. And so then it took off, and I become friends with Hulk Hogan and all the guys, and everybody lived down the street from one another, and everybody had boats, and so we would hang out on weekends together with back in the day, Randy Savage and all those guys, and so I become friends with Paul Orndorff. And he was quite a legend when I met him. I mean, people, of course, kind of really liked him, and so somehow we hit it off, and I did some TV stuff with him, and I hung out, and I went to a lot of the wrestling things, and I became in essence like his psychic mascot, if you would, and it was fun. It was just really, really fun. And the greatest part, I mean, it was so cool going to the events and hanging out with those guys. I remember we were in Caesar's Palace at their grand finale show, and Paul was like one of the centerpieces of it, and I got to do stuff and be there in the middle of it all, and it was just really, really great.
That's great that you even go further back and are such a big wrestling fan. I didn't realize that you were such a big fan all the way back in the day either.
Well, yeah, I was, as a kid, it was just what you do, it was what you do. And you would watch wrestling, and so you never miss it, and, but living where I live in North Carolina, I live in central North Carolina, very close to Pinehurst. And right up the street from Ellerby, which is actually Andre the Giant's home. His
Yeah.
house is about 10 miles from my house in North Carolina. And so it was kind of like he was like this bigger than life person that hung out. And so sometimes with me being a medium, I actually can sort of see people, not sort of see people, I can see people in minute detail on the other side. And that's, people come to me from all over the world to ask me questions about their dead loved ones or whatever.
Oh, sorry, you froze for a second there. Sorry about that. Or I froze. One of
Okay.
us froze. Sorry about that. You were
Yeah.
saying you were saying that you could see people of minute detail on the other side from being a medium.
Well, yeah, on the other side, and I could do that ever since I was a little kid. And so it was really wild because when I heard the news of Paul passing, when I heard that news that Paul Orndorff passed, I actually looked to see if I could see him, right? And
Right.
because I hadn't spoke to him in several years. And so I looked and I saw him on the other side with Andre the Giant
Wow.
and with a whole bunch of other people. And I didn't know everybody, but it looked like he was at this big wrestling event in the sky, if you would.
Yeah.
And I saw what I would assume to be other family members and people that he would, that knew him, were close in family. But it was really crazy to realize that all these things we do here on earth, even wrestling, why not? It transposes in heaven. You still have everybody there doing their thing, and so, I saw that, and if I channeled him now, I see him. And I see him hitting you with his elbow like this, and so whatever that means, I don't know. And so, but he's like, he's just he says he appreciates the good words. He was a very kind man, as I know, and he just said he appreciates the good words, and so that's good. And he
One of
says,
the all-time best.
yeah, and he also tells me you're buddies with one of his best friends. Who is that? Who's one of his best buddies that you're buddies with, when he did a lot when he was doing wrestling?
Trying to think who it might be, because I have a bunch of friends that are
Yeah.
in the business that are wrestlers that he was probably friends with or was friendly with. I am buddies with Kevin Sullivan, who is a good friend of his that always talks about him.
Yeah, he smiled. Yeah, yeah, and he does a little dance when you mentioned his name.
Yes.
So whatever this little dance is, I think it would be something idiosyncratic to those guys. And so, but he's very much around in spirit, and he says he loves the sport, he loves everything about it, and he loves everybody with it. And he said, "There's a wrestling heaven." That's his words, if you would. And he's making a joke with me because we did this crazy commercial that in its day went very viral, and it went very viral, if you would. And this commercial that went out everywhere, it was kind of playing everywhere on every TV every night. It was just bizarre, where he had broke his mirror, and I talked to him like I fixed the problem spiritually, because of me being the psychic. And he goes, and I said, you are Mr. Wonderful. Look in your mirror, because he would walk around with his mirror, and so but he just pulled out a mirror, held it up, and he says, "I am Mr. Wonderful." And he did this funny thing from heaven to let me know, and he's just laughing. So he's good in heaven. I see him doing all these silly things.
That's great. We as fans, we always think like the wrestling heaven, like in our brains. You got Andre and all the greats up there together. Just as fans, you always kind of think about stuff like that.
It really does happen. I didn't know that. Honestly, I didn't know that until I channeled him the other day for the first time. And I saw him with Andre the Giant, because even though when I was a little kid, I was a really big fan of Andre, later good friends with Hulk Hogan, I was, it had sort of just went out of my mind, but it took me back to when I was a child. And it was just really a beautiful experience for me to actually get to see Andre the Giant even in heaven. That was just, that was big, because he was bigger than life, because he was so big. He was just this big guy, and so, but all of it is so fun. And I'm just so happy that it just keeps on going and going and going. How neat, right?
Yeah. So with Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, how did you get into WCW? Like, obviously those vignettes are great. He's saying he's lost himself. He's not Mr. Wonderful anymore. You make the surprise appearance, but behind the scenes, how did that all kind of go down? Like for you to get there to begin with?
Well, I was real close with Hulk Hogan. And Hulk was like the biggest thing at that time, and at that time, and so I was real good buddies with Hulk Hogan, because he would come in and do our morning show, because we had the biggest morning show in the southeastern United States, and so I remember I was involved with I gave him. There was a big ceremony where he got the keys to the city of St. Petersburg, Florida. And I remember I was there to help the mayor give him the key. I mean, there was because we just did so much crazy stuff.
Very cool.
Back in the day, we do everything on radio and we do everything on TV. And nothing was really made up. That was a reality show at its best, because we were really the characters we played. Like if we talked about partying on the weekends on boats, we were partying on the weekends on boats, and and so whatever it was. But I was really good friends with Hulk Hogan, and buddies with him and Randy Savage and that whole crowd. It just kind of evolved that they thought it was a good idea. And I was already doing another show. We did some of the big events. We did, I remember we did the one with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, that one. And so that was we use that as a centerpiece for one of our big morning show finale things or whatever. And so we were just up in it. It was really just what we did. And so it was very, very easy to pop in, and they thought it was a great idea, and Paul thought it was a great idea. So we just shot a bunch of television vignettes of stuff, like you said, and then they chopped them up about 1,000 different ways, and they went out a million different times. And so, but I've had so many fun, great experiences from doing it. I remember I was in New York City and it was snowing. And nobody could get a cab, and I was late to get to this party or whatever I was going to, and it was a celebrity party, and there was a cab that slid sideways all the way across the road. He got out of his cab, he opened his door, and he said, "Any friend of Mr. Wonderful's is a friend of mine. Get in my cab." Right. And he picked me up. And I remember, I'm like, thank you. So, the Paul Orndorff gods have been around for a long time, I think, to make me aware of stuff. And it was just the funnest experience, the greatest experience ever. I had fun. I had a great time with it,
So Hulk kind of brings you in and says, "Hey, we got an idea. We want you to work with Paul."
Yeah. And Hulk's manager at the time, Gary, let me remember. I went brain. Jimmy Hart, not Gary Hart. Jimmy Hart. There we are. And so, but Hulk's manager, Jimmy Hart, was fun. We'd go eat seafood together sometimes and stuff. And Hulk and I, we were always out in the Gulf of Mexico on boats and things. But he, the whole crowd, it was just, we were real buddies. And so they thought it was a great idea. And we went and, we were already shooting some other events and doing some other stuff. And they just thought, this is going to be great. Let's do these pieces. And so we did them. But, you never know when you do something on the air, different media pieces, when they catch on and they just go and go and go, and they have this life of their own, So there's crazy little commercials, and so back in that day, my hair, I think, was a little smaller than it is now. And so, but the same trademark. And so people were like, just all about it. It was really good. And so it was a lot of fun.
When you're there and you're doing that, is that scripted at all, or is that just off the cuff? Like, hey, here's the plan of what we want to do with Paul, or do they give you a script and say, this is what we want you to say?
Back in that day, let me try to remember. It was a little bit just off the cuff. It was sort of do what you want to do. Here's our objective. Here's what we're up to. And then I think we just did it. I think we just do it. And so it wasn't really like I was reading a script of any kind. No, it was just, go do that. And you would just go do it. It was much like morning drive time radio, the same thing that I was so used to doing and still do. And it was just like, you're doing it live. It's live. It's really live.
Yeah.
And so it was more like that.
Was there kind of pressure on you, like backstage, like, oh, I want to make sure I nail this thing, or you're like, this is easy. This is a piece of cake. I'm going to nail this.
For me, it's a piece of cake. It's not hard. I can actually do a script but I can, everybody always makes jokes and says you're kind of one take one take Gary, kind of thing. And but it really just comes from the practice. Practice, I don't know if it makes perfect, but it makes you better. As you know, if you do a lot of shows, you can just do that thing. And but no, I really wasn't nervous, but I can't say I got nervous, but I would get excited at the live events. And I don't know if that was nervous or just excitement, because the fans are excited. Everybody's freaking out. You got these giant teleprompters everywhere. And I remember when we were doing this show in Las Vegas, I walked in and they did hand me a line. They said, here, you've got to say this when the camera's in your face. He's going to count you down. As soon as you do, you say it. Everything will go on you. The giant teleprompters will be you. Then you have to do this, and you're going to turn to the other camera. You're going to do, you know what I mean? So that I remember that one time and as we were doing the center, but it ended up being the whole centerpiece of the giant finale, whatever show of the year, at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. And this was, for me, a great experience. It was just a great experience. And, when you're backstage and you're walking through the dressing rooms, and when all the wrestlers are getting ready, like there was in that day, you would have, Hulkster, you'd have Ric Flair, you would have all the other big ones, the Austins, it would be like, all the, you would just be so excited because you would see these guys. What was crazy, because I was doing these pieces, they would say, "Hey Gary, what up? Hey Gary, what up?" And they would hang out and call my name and stuff. And so I think if anything, it made me feel really cool. So I thought I was really cool because I got to go do this, and it bled over to so many other places in my life. It was just crazy how it did that.
Just as a fan, I was like, oh, this is great. But like in almost a little bit of a comedic way too, because Mr. Wonderful is one of those characters where, he's rough, he's tumble, he's a tough guy, but he's going through hardships. He's saying he's losing a lot. He's not Mr. Wonderful anymore. And then he's like, Gary Spivey, what are you doing here? And he, in the locker room with you. So when that's going on, are you thinking like, okay, this is going to be a great like comedic segment, or you think this is going to be great, kind of uplifting? Because it's completely opposite of what you would think of for Paul Orndorff.
Well, it wasn't supposed to be comedic. It was really supposed to be really serious. And it was, I think it was just odd, but, I think it left everybody going, huh?
Right.
What? Like a psychic, a wrestler, what? And so I think it did that. And if anything, but whatever it was, it had a certain appeal that has really stood the test of time, and I still have people talk about it, or I have people pull up the clips on their phone and look at this, or whatever. And so it really has hung around for a lot of years, and so I have to say thank you, Mr. Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Wonderful, for that. That's
great.
That.
26 years ago, that was 1995, and everyone's still kind of talking about that. They love that segment. He's got eventually he's going to get the mirror, he's going to be getting a theme song, he's Mr. Wonderful, like he's going to be getting a career resurgence thanks to you at that point.
Right, exactly. And so it was fun. It was just great fun. I certainly enjoyed it, and the people that I worked with were just the most beautiful people. I had fun with everybody, and we really had, like I said, a good time when the cameras were going, or when we were when we're at the big events. And we also had just a great time hanging out, because a lot of us lived in the Tampa Bay area or Atlanta. And at the time I lived in both places. And so we would just end up being around each other, so it was sort of a natural thing. It was a lot of fun. And
what was he like behind the scenes? Like when you're working with him, is he very serious, or are you guys joking around and stuff?
Well, you could tell, he wanted to get it right, whatever he was doing. So he took his job serious. He took his job very, very serious. But he was very warm. I just remember him being very kind, super gentle, like almost like a gentle giant. I remember his hands were so big. He was just like this big dude, and so he But he was very nice, very, in demeanor, gentle almost. Uh, but but he would joke, he would laugh. You know, everybody's laughing, having fun. It was such a great honor to be that close in. And the biggest thing was I got the biggest kick out of when I would be bopping around or going to regular things like a grocery store. And the first time I caught on to what was happening, I was on, I think, Saturday morning wrestling forever with these different pieces. And
Yeah.
so it was like, I would be at the grocery store, and all of a sudden, there'd be a little kid that would come running over and grab around my legs and hold on for dear life, you know. And the little kid and when this first started happening, I was like, okay, what's up?
Mm.
And so, because most of the shows I did were late night shows on TV, and
Right.
so I had infomercials running everywhere at that time. And so I'm like, wow, this kid's up really late. And so, but no, it created a whole new audience. And so, but the reason the kids were so into hanging out and talking to me and asking me questions, and if they were wonderful or whatever, it was simply because I was doing that with Paul Orndorff, Mr. Wonderful. And so that was a big joy for me.
I was going to say, because technically you're Paul's new mentor at this point, quote unquote, like as you're helping him along, did that increase your fan base as far as your psychic stuff and stuff? Because that's a whole new audience, right? I mean, that is completely different than what you're used to.
Well, it had to be, everything. More is more, of course, more is more. But I remember, coming out, and when I would come out, my character was a liked character and loved character. They tend to like me, love me, and I was different, still am. And so, but people related to me in the fact that I was going to help them get better. I was going to fix the problem, like I was doing with Mr. Wonderful, I think. So I remember coming out to, there was an event that was in the Bayfront Center in Florida, in St. Petersburg, Florida. I remember walking out, and I remember the whole crowd going crazy everywhere. And so, and I remember that feeling, and I thought, this is a crazy feeling. And so it made me so much understand what these famous wrestlers must be feeling when they come out, and the fans are screaming and yelling. You have these kids that are so excited. You have older people so excited. Everybody's like, they're there for you. They're the fans. I think there's nothing like wrestling fans. The wrestling fans are from some other planet. They are just a different bunch of folks, and very loyal, and very enthusiastic and very into it. And so, and when they don't like you, they love you. And so it's like, I remember that, and I remember that being a wonderful thing. So would that increase my base? I'm sure. Sure. Yes, of course. And so, and a lot of the other events that I went to, I remember Daytona Beach, it was the same way, different ones. I remember certainly Vegas and a few others. And it was just, the same thing. So I was a very recognizable character, as I am, and non-mistakably, there's Gary Spivey, the sidekick, and so they were always, all about it, and so it was fun. It was really fun.
When you think about it, like with Paul, it's funny. Like, he's got the series of losses. He has self-doubt, and you come in and you help him. Is that kind of just really just you being you?
That's really. That's me really being me. Many of the wrestlers over the years that I was friends with, at that time, as people do, I just help people. I still help people every day of my life. That's what I do. I still read people in private readings. People call and they get, they'll book a session with me. I do a lot of stuff all over the world. I work with a lot of famous people. I work with a lot of executives all over the planet every day. I do big spiritual retreats. I teach other people how to use their psychic ability. I'm doing a big spiritual retreat in Ojai, California on where am I? The 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'll be in Ojai, California. Wow. And so we're doing a big spiritual retreat there. But GarySpivey.com. Check me out. GarySpivey.com. I have everything up there. You can get a private reading with me. You can hang out with me. You can come to a retreat. And I also have a great Zoom cast that I do. I love doing Zoom. And every Saturday, at 8 o'clock Eastern, I'm on Zoom for a couple of hours, and you can just ask me questions for free. I'm right on Zoom every Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Nice, awesome stuff. I gotta know this though. Where did the hair come from? Where did they awesome look with the white and the white hair? Where did that come from?
Well, I always had big woofy hair, and I played in a band. I was playing in nightclubs when I was like 15 years old, and and I had big bushy blonde hair at the time, and then I always had poofy hair, and so and it's had many different evolvings through the years, and these days it's my real hair and hair extensions. You can get a much easier do with hair extensions these days, and so depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing. But if I'm doing shows, I do shows all up and down the strip in Las Vegas for years. Always sold out, always happy. Vegas is a great place. And so, and of course, I do morning drive time radio in all these different markets all over America, and still do. I can do it from anywhere. So I could be here in North Carolina or in Florida or in California or somewhere in Europe. It doesn't make any difference. I can still do my morning shows because I'm just on the phone talking in, and so I do a lot of that. And but it's ended up being it's a nice time, and I've had a nice fun career. I'm looking forward. I'm working on a new book right now, and so I'm doing a lot of different things. Happy though, very happy.
Yeah, it seems like you've got so much radio, TV, books, your Zoomcast. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff. The Gary Spivey business is still, going strong. It's still alive and well.
Well, it's stronger than ever, which is really crazy, and it's kind of, I think that, if you enjoy what you do, I enjoy helping people, and then I went from being a psychic kid to being a medium that can see people on the other side, and then I went into even I do healing and teach people how to do healing for themselves. These days there's a lot of healing on the planet that needs to occur, of course, and so I try to help out everybody I can. That's what I do every day.
Now, as far as yourself, I know you do the psychic, the medium stuff, but you've been on so many famous TV shows. I mean, Inside Edition, Jimmy Kimmel, A&E's Family Plots. I mean, you've been doing that. Is that all these kind of shows wanting you, or do you kind of want to branch out yourself? You know what I mean? Like, are they wanting Gary Spivey? You saying, oh, I got to get on here, got to get on there.
No, they always just call me up. It's really like that.
Yeah.
And so I, I get a lot of calls to do different shows, and if I'm close by, or if I'm there, or if I'm in California, if it's in California or New York or wherever, then I'll go do it. And I'm working on I can't say, but I get a vision that there could be a new evolving of me next year, that I'll be maybe doing some cool things. You'll get to see a lot of me. So that's my vision.
Wow.
That's my vision. Wow. I can't talk about it, but that's my vision.
Love it. Love that vision.
Yeah.
With you, when people think Gary Spivey, the psychic, like, what do they think of? Like, what do you think? Like, do they think of just the TV stuff? They think of the hair? Like, what do you think people think of when they think Gary Spivey?
Well, I think they think a lot of things, but I think that, more than anything, I think my if I had a claim to fame, it would just be all the moments on the radio, because I'm really reading people. I'm really nailing stuff. They go, wow, how did he know that? And so I think I have a lot of wow. Every call, I have to have an aha wow moment, if you think about it. And so, and I get call after call after call, and and I'm nailing every call. And so so I think that I become everybody's buddy. And then the people that see me in live events, we have a great time. It's really, really fun. And with the cameos on TV for the last 100 years, they've been different times where they're going, oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. So I'm sort of like that guy. I remember I was so excited when I did Jerry Springer for the first time. And so, because the show was crazy and the audience was radical, and they said, "Can you handle that audience?" And we were working on doing a TV show ourselves with the same with the Jerry Springer group, and I was like, yeah, I can handle that audience. And so anyway, I did. And they were like, oh my God. And so I got to do the final thought, which was exciting for me, And but there was many different moments through the years. And I go back a long ways into the 90s. I predicted almost every major disaster that occurred in the 90s. And so, and I'm still predicting things. I just did a prediction. I think they just showed me the clip a minute ago where I predicted on a TV show in November. I predicted there would be a guy assassinated as a big political figure, and it would happen within the 2 weeks, and this would be worldwide. Anyway, it happened. This guy that was the head of Iran's nuclear power thing was assassinated, and so that was kind of crazy. And then they say, "What else do you see?" And so if I do something serious and spooky, then I usually will try to read something funny or fun. And I said, "Well, I see a flying car next year." And so a couple of weeks ago, they did a debut, of course, this flying car.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw it on the news. And so, yeah. And so my prediction about a flying car came true. And so, but I usually will do, predictions where, those are easy for me. I can just kind of think about something and come up with them, and so.
Very cool. So as we wind it down, we head towards the finish. What's next? I know you kind of briefly said before, but what's next? What else you got going on besides Division, obviously?
Well, I'm doing a lot of things. I'm writing a book. I've got one book, and I'm doing a second and a third book, and so I'm looking forward to that. And basically explaining, this is a book that's going to end up explaining to people how to stay on the ride these days. There's a lot of dark energies that are affecting people, and you can actually meditate and heal yourself from those dark energies. We all have friends, we all have families, we all have loved ones, we all have goals, we all have an electric bill, we all have these things. And so we really just have to learn how to live as one on the planet. And the oneness thing is, I think, is the most important thing that people have to really get. And so you don't have to always agree with everybody, but you can still be one with them, believe it or not, even if you don't exactly agree with them. And then if you do have this energy of oneness, you'll find you have this crazy luck that is this dumb luck. I mean, when I look at you, when I'm talking to you, I can tell you're a person that has dumb luck. You just, right? It
Sometimes,
things just happen. There you are, boom. And you find yourself in that space. And see, when I tapped into you, now feel how your feet are hot?
Mm-hmm.
You feel that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's just me reading you. And so, prior to this moment, I hadn't read anything except I talked to Paul on the other side. But as I look at you, I can see you, and I see a lot of light around you. And I see, it looks like it's raining new cars.
Oh,
so I see that. I see cars falling out of the sky. So I don't know if you like cars. I don't know if you like cars or if you're looking for cars, but I see cars. That's the vision I see.
Coming up, my lease on my Chevy is coming up. So they've been sending me emails and mails to my house. Hey, you got to get a new car. Hey, make sure you stay with us. Get a new lease.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I see that coming, but I could see like little things or I could see big things, and it's like, but that's what it's like being psychic. I've just always been this way. It's very, very easy for me. Very easy, but I just try to help other people with it as best I can. So I'm going to run around and tour a little bit. If the COVID thing, if we can beat that back a little more, I look forward to doing some shows in Vegas and the stuff that I've always done. I got to stay home for a year. You know what? I loved it though. I had fun. I loved it. Yeah, it was a whole different beat and made me learn how to do things different. My show on Zoom that's every Saturday Eastern at 8:00. And go to GarySpivey.com and sign up for it every week. It's easy.
And do you have any social medias that you want anybody out there to follow?
Everything Gary Spivey. Yep. GarySpivey.com. Gary's / I'm on everything. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everything. And so, yeah, check it out. Gary Spivey, GarySpivey. There you go.
Awesome to kind of go down memory lane because I was a huge WCW fan, huge Paul Orndorff fan, and I loved when you did those appearances for WCW. So it was awesome to get you on and go down memory lane. It was awesome to hear that you're a wrestling fan as well. That was really cool.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, I love it. I actually, and so those were some of the most fun moments that were way different, way out of character, left field thing for me, but it really worked. And I certainly enjoyed it and enjoyed my buddies in wrestling. It was great and has been always.
Awesome. Mr. Spivey, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. I enjoyed it. Thank you, John. Thanks.
Yes. Thank you.